Hard. Let's go ahead and talk about the big one today, which is Kushti's feedback, and get into this because what essentially has happened, the precursor, we've talked about it a few times. There is EIP 27 that is being discussed for a change to the emissions of ERGO. And what you need to understand about it is essentially initially the emissions was going to end in the year 2026. But because of the price of storage, basically of their trash, essentially trash code, we'll go into more details at some point. And the fact that, of course, it would end and miners would only be receiving, of course, the fees off of the network, which is not as robust as something like Ethereum. Essentially, they are looking at extending out the block reward for the miners. But to do this, they don't want to reduce the total supply or increase the total supply. So they essentially want to reduce the block reward right now by 12 immediately and then by more over time, and take that reduction and put it into a new contract that would extend the block reward that miners get paid out beyond 2026. Now, there have been obviously community concerns that have been brought up on Reddit that we have covered. I've covered my concerns with it, and I've also covered, of course, why I understand it needs to happen. Let's go ahead and get into the response or Kushti's feedback on EIP 27. Kushti is the lead developer of ERGO, and this is posted on Medium. So let's go ahead and hop into it. EIP 27, Kushti's feedback. Addressing community mentioned alternatives. First of all, we need to understand alternatives, as it is not quite clear whether storage rent will be enough by the end of the current emission and how smooth mining rewards will be. Switching to proof of stake or doing checkpointing via another blockchain, on-chain or off-chain protocol is radically changing security assumptions of the protocol. This should not be considered. Introducing some contracts for miners to participate voluntarily. Some ideas were proposed on the forum. Many most likely fail, and it is hard to predict how such things will play out. So that, I guess those two are shut down, which is switching to proof of stake or doing checkpointing. So glad that got shut down. And then introducing some contracts for miners to participate voluntarily. This one's interesting, and I understand it probably wouldn't work, but I guess what the idea would be is that you would have some miners that would say, I still want to get paid out whatever. And the other miners could say, I'll take the reduction, put it into the smart contract. But that one-to-one for trying to predict how to extend the mining wouldn't really work out very well there. So additional potential changes miners can consider. So let's go over these. A mild approach would be to repurpose transaction fees and storage rent towards paying some percentage to the re-emission contract. Transaction fees are not part of the protocol, actually, so changing this contract can be done painlessly. This change will require minor consensus. Changing storage rent contract, according to most miners' logic, could be seen as monetary policy change, but this is also possible for miners to vote on. The only issue is to predict whether the collected funds can be enough. Also, re-emission contract would be more complex, as it needs to pay not fixed amount per block, but rather a share, in this case likely. So you would be repurposing transaction fees as opposed to the block reward, which is kind of interesting concept there. But once again, I think it does fall into this voluntary push out, which is because it's a percentage, it would be more complex to determine how long that would extend out the emissions contract, essentially. So EIP 27, now about the nature of the proposed change in EIP 27. Technically, an emission curve change is different in Bitcoin and ERGO. In Bitcoin, new Bitcoins are created out of thin air according to protocol code. Emission curve can be changed via hard fork only. In opposite, in ERGO, emission is done via a smart contract, and so things like EIP 27 are possible with a soft fork. With EIP 27, total emission remains the same. Emission contract remains the same. Miners will send some part of the mining reward to the future. To do that, they first collectively agree. The only restrictive thing here is set by miners for a miner, and the new rule is soft forkable, so miners can switch it off or change it in the future with a vote. I think crypto economic security gains outweigh possible controversy behind this proposal. So what is he saying here? One sec. Because this, if you guys are getting a little confused, I understand. Let's break it down so you understand. The best way I can put this is that essentially, just think of it like the block reward running out. And when the block reward runs out, the security of the network will be compromised because the reward will not be enough to incentivize the miners to maintain security. That is essentially all it is. So what they want to do is reduce the mining rewards right now to put them in a future contract so that the block rewards will last for longer, thereby protecting and maintaining the security of the network via proof of work. Obviously, some of the concerns are, I think from my perspective, is like, why wasn't this seen before? I think that's a fair question. What I had as far as answers from that is that their models only go out for 4 years. And so now even, you know, from here, 2022 to 2026, they can now see exactly how the numbers will work out. I think those numbers are in relation to, of course, primarily the storage fees and so on. So why is this a little bit different? So when they're talking about the emissions, right? And the difference between Bitcoin emissions and ERGO emissions is theoretically all of these rewards are already within a contract. So as opposed to Bitcoin where you're minting new Bitcoin, you're not really minting new coin within ERGO. What you're doing in ERGO is essentially contacting a smart contract that is then paying you out emissions. So that coin is technically already there. An example of this too is going to be TON, which we'll talk about here in a little bit as well. So it's not like it's minting new coin, which I guess does for sure block any ability to extend out emissions as far as total supply. That could be positive or negative depending on your point of view on it. And so this is where we're at. I still don't have all the information on pools. I have talked to the community every day, specifically Arminio, I believe. Yeah, Arminio. I've talked to him every day since this was brought to my attention and the first segment we did on it for the Crypto Morning Mining Show. So I'm staying up to date. As soon as I get more information on how the vote is going to go through, I'll let you guys know. I'd like to hear your thoughts and opinions on which way you're thinking you want to vote and why down in the comment section below. If you're live right now, we'll talk about it when we're done here. But, you know, let me know what you guys think, because I understand why it needs to be done. At the same time, I really just wish it wasn't in this position at all, because it makes it difficult anytime you are messing with emissions and changing the monetary policy. Essentially, it gets sketchy. Luckily, miners do appear to be in control here, so that's golden. I hope you enjoyed this clip from the Crypto Mining Morning Show every Monday through Friday, 7:45 a.m. Pacific and 10:45 a.m. Eastern Time. You can check out more clips here Or if you're interested in checking out the entire live show, you can check that out down here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next Tuesday.